essence, all the products you see here are all produced in Ghana. The name of our company is Crown Joy Arts. All the products you see here, as I said before, are from Ghana.
So when you go around and you hear people saying, well, the Africans don't really care about development, clearly that is not the case. I mean, if Ghanaians in the diaspora can send home, through one company alone, $1 billion in 1 year, you're really talking about a very actively engaged community.
I was talking to one of the conference participants who came from Nigeria, and she captured this in a very extraordinary way and said every time that money comes in, people go to school. In the villages, people can afford to buy from the local shops. The shop then can stock goods. The money that comes in, basically, through the multiplier effect, has a massive impact in the local area.
What we need to do is think about the African diaspora in its multiple dimensions. In other words, there are different forms of capital that the diaspora transfers. We talk about remittances and the money that's finance capital. But even here, in the UK, in London, for example, diaspora consumes a lot of products from back home. So there's trade, So there are a number of aspects, really, to it.
Personally, it's kind of like a year ago, I just finished a course on African development from like a distance, and I was, what can I do? I really want to do something, what can I do? And it's kind of like such a big problem.
There are means and ways in which we ought to be thinking about how to harness the skills of the diaspora, not necessarily by demanding that everybody returns, but in more flexible ways. And I think that is possible, and that is generally where I think we're moving towards now. How do we actually tap into those skills and those resources among the diaspora?
The question has to be asked, can we do more? Do we need paradigm shifts in what we are doing? Rather than sending money and food over and aid, shouldn't we really be tackling the causal issues?
But when a government steals money, takes it in a Swiss bank, and the Swiss bank locks that money and say, I'm not giving it back to you. That's corruption. That's Swiss bank.
I think it's always good to hear what, probably from a gender point of view, what a woman's doing in Africa, and how we, as part of the African diaspora over here, can engage with development over there. And it's not just about raising the funds, but also sort of on a higher level, on a more policy level as well, and lobbying, and that development doesn't just stop at making or delivering projects.
There is an international, global environment that exists that we cannot analyze what the Senegalese government is doing outside that international global environment. And what the international global environment is, there are unfair trade conditions that prevent the growth in the countries. There are conditions of government not being able to provide subsidies to the farmers. When farmers in the countries are being competed by highly subsidized agricultural products that come from Europe, that come from other Western countries, that enter the market and that make the crops of the farmers go rotten.
We're all in it together now. What happens in Africa affects here. What happens here affects there, which is one thing why I really think the AD3 conference has been fantastic in releasing what the African diaspora can do and joining the local to the global and the global to the local. It's no longer I'm going to live in Wapping and I pay my taxes and I'm fine.
So I think that there are very, very many issues. It is not only migration. We cannot analyze the issue of unemployment, of migration, just from the problem of what government is doing. You have to look at global environment, you have to look at national environment, you have to look at meso-level institutions that exist in the country, you have to look at whole macroeconomic environment and meso-level environment to see what is happening at the micro level and household level.
What we are doing here as we gather together is gradually, I think, we're beginning to publicly accept responsibility for Africa. As the descendants of Africa and the children of Africa abroad, and we're wanting now to begin to tell our stories. We've kept quiet, I think, for a long time, and I think it's so we're the ones who can change that picture by articulating the real stories.
Yes, I think that for those who have been, if you like, regular participants, I mean, we've got a deeper relationship. They are now, this is part of their event. They're actually actively involved. I mean, you can see the growing number of people who are walking around in, say, just the orange T-shirts, for example. So this is not something that is a conference where people come, they sit and listen to the experts and go away. This is very much their own initiative, their own event. And we have people who are facilitating the event. We have people who have contributed in so many different ways. So I think so, yes.